And somehow or another we can find the resources and the financing to build multi-level complexes for prisons, but HBCUs are finding themselves in foreclosure and bankruptcy. We need some help, ladies and gentlemen, because we're finding ourselves in a precarious predicament where in just a few days, 200,000 African Americans will converge on Washington, D.C. to celebrate a monument of Martin Luther King Jr. But the critical question that we've got to ask ourselves is, would Martin Luther King Jr. want us to build a monument at the cost of forgetting a movement? That something has to be said, that we can no longer celebrate the past struggle and we forget the present crisis. There is in fact a slogan within the Jewish community that declares never again. But there is in fact a subtenor within the hoods and the projects of Black America that asks, when will it end? If we are not a part of the solution, we will become a part of the problem. And I am all the more convinced that we're in a place where we need some help. Our president needs some help. Need some help because somehow or another we have come down with amnesia. We have forgotten that whenever there is an uprising on the plantation, there was somebody who would in fact whisper it in the ear of the massa. Where it was, there was trouble. Woe unto Tavis Smiley in Corner West, who has in fact forgotten that Obama is our president. He is our brother. He is our leader. You cannot claim Tavis Smiley to mark a war on poverty and then send in a $20,000 speaking fee. If in fact we're serious about the war on poverty, Cornell West, take a sabbatical from the Ivy League school and go to an HBCU and tell them what it is to really make an impact and to make a difference. We are in need of some serious help. In 2011, when we have to now depend on radio disc jockeys to be our spokespersons for civil rights. What happened to the preachers who were in fact on the front line? While it is that I'm glad for Steve Harvey and Michael Baisden and Tom Joyner, there needs to be some preachers who will stand up and say that there is something that is wrong and out of place and out of order. We need some help. Catherine Stockard wrote a novel just a few years ago entitled The Help that has recently come under tremendous scrutiny and tremendous dialogue on the internet about what it meant to be an African-American woman in 1962 to work in somebody else's house and raise somebody else's children. But there are in fact some gleanings and some insights that we can take today in this opening plenary session of Blacks in Government, of what it means to be the help. In order to be the help, you understood something from our grandmothers and our great-grandmothers who never had the opportunity to go to Harvard or to Boston University or to go to MIT. I stand to you today, ladies and gentlemen, as a student who graduated from Morehouse College and from Duke University and received a PhD from Oxford University in Great Britain. But none of that really is an outstanding landmark and hallmark of accomplishment. Graduating from Duke University summa cum laude with a master's degree in philosophy and theology really is not why I want you to applaud. I want you to applaud because my great-grandfather, Booker T. Williams, was the head cook at Duke University. And he was not able to go to Duke University. All he could do was shuck peas and bake chicken. And he was able to, in fact, look from heaven and see his grandson walk across the stage, not because of a status quo, not because of a status set-aside. He was able to see his grandson graduate. And I stand today not because I'm better than anybody else, but I'm here because somebody prayed for me. Somebody had me on their mind. Somebody took the time. And I'm so glad that they prayed. We got to thank God for the help. Thank God for the help that understood that the help was responsible for three things. The help was responsible, number one, for raising the children. And Something has happened to this generation that is now coming behind us that has a false sense of entitlement. That they are now eating the fruit of success without knowing the seeds of sacrifice. So our children are now, in fact, having tattoos on their chest, but they don't have God in their heart. They got gold teeth, but they have nickel-plated brains. They know everything about Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj, but they don't know Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies, but still, like dust, I'll rise, I'll rise, I'll rise. We have to raise our children who have gotten to a place where they have in fact forgotten who it is that they are and whose they are, that they have expended all of their energy on video games and BET 106 in Park. Why? Because we have so many parents who want to be their friends and have forgotten to be their parents. We have raised our children to in fact not expect a greater level of excellence. This will be the very first generation of African Americans where their children will make less money than their parents. You wonder why it is that you got your grown child living in your house, feeding up your food and watching your cable. And when you're old with no Social Security, that Negro won't be able to take care of you. At some point, you're going to have to do something to raise your children. Second responsibility of the help was not just to raise the children, but they were in charge of the kitchen. And being in the kitchen, they understood that they had to know the ingredients of success. They had to, in fact, understand that it was the right combination that would make it work. And something has happened that we have lost sight of the ingredients as to how it is that we've gotten here. Please do not become so impressed by yourself because you have a master's degree and driving a BMW and living in a townhouse. The reason why you're able to still stand is because we serve a God who looks beyond all of our faults and meets us and our needs. Please do not be deluded of the fact that because we finally have a black person in the White House, please, that does not mean that they have solved the problem of homelessness within our community and our veterans who still do not have adequate Medicare and our sheriffs who do not have the skill set that they need in order to raise our children. We need the right ingredients that would say in 2011 something is wrong with our people who are still cashing their check at the corner cut rate liquor store. Something is out of order when it is that we've got more on our backs than we do in the bank. That there's got to be a greater level of our success than red bottom shoes and a Louis Vuitton bag. If in fact you got a Gucci bag but you ain't got nothing in it, I'd rather you have Ziploc and have something to stand on. Success. It was Sir Isaac Newton that in fact posited the theory that two things cannot be in the same place at the same time. And we've got to get to a place where we expand our thinking that we are not monolithic people. We do not all believe in the same thing. As our president reflected in his opening remarks, that amongst us are in fact people a part of the Islamic community. Amongst us are in fact African Americans who are Republican. There are, in fact, in this room, African Americans who are, in fact, gay and lesbian. We do not all think the same. We do not all believe the same. But I want to remind you, before you were Republican, before you figured out you were gay, before it is that you went to the mosque, you were black first. And I don't want you to not forget who it is that you are. And please do not get so caught up in any set group that you forget that we still have a common interest. There was a story that was told about some black crows that were in fact found themselves under a net. And while they were under the net, they came up with a meeting as to how it is that they would have civil disobedience. They said at the count of 3, all of us are going to flap our wings. And when we flap our wings, we'll be able to break the net and fly on to freedom. They said at the count of 3, everybody expand your wings so that we might fly. They counted one, and at one, somebody stopped and said, when we get out of here, who's going to speak at the press conference? Sounds like Black Crowes.